Hi friends, I'm back with another tall tale. So another job that you might not be familiar with from long ago, besides lumberjack, cowboy, is a steamboat captain, a riverboat captain. Um, Remember, long ago, there was no automobiles, no cars. So when people moved west, they moved using horses and wagons, or they rode horses. And in order to transport or move like the logs that say Paul Bunyan would cut down to a place that needed logs, like Texas, for instance, where they needed logs to build homes, they would often travel on a boat. They would use rivers. And so riverboat captains were an important part of the culture at that time. And this one is Mike Fink, A Tall Tale Retold and Illustrated by Stephen Kellogg. Mike was born not far from the Allegheny Mountains. Right from the start, it was clear that he was destined for a life of action. He hated being shut up indoors, and so when he was only 2 days old, he ran away from home. There were rumors that Mike had joined a troop of acrobatic frogs that traveled from pond to pond. Mike's grandfather came to fetch him. The whole town's talking about a grandson of mine who's been hanging around with a gang of rowdy frogs, he thundered. From now on, you'll stay home and behave like a normal infant. Once again, Mike rebelled furiously against being confined indoors. He leaped up and down on the bed with such force that he catapulted through the roof. On the next leap, Mike rocketed high enough to see the vast network of rivers to the west. There he spotted the keelboats and heard the crew's hearty songs. Mike plummeted back into the house singing, I'm going to be a keelboat man, cock-a-doodle-doo. Once again, set, Mike set off a family uproar. Keelboat men are ruffians, rowdies, and riffraff, wailed his grandmother. This new outrage will disgrace our family name forever. Mike's mother decided then and there that her son would be much happier if she raised him on the frontier. So the next morning, they joined a wagon train heading west. So I think a keelboat, if we go back to the cover, a keelboat is a type of boat that they use with these sticks, and they put the sticks on the bottom of the river and they pull the boat with that force. Mike loved the freedom of wilderness life. However, the sudden death of their ox threw his mother into despair. How will we clear the land? She cried. How will we plow? Cheer up, Mama, said Mike. I can handle those chores. And he did. But Mike never stopped dreaming of becoming a keelboat man. He had heard that wrestling was their favorite sport, and it was also his. He was not tall for his age, but he was sturdy and quick. Even when he wrestled boys much bigger and older than himself, he usually came out on top. Mike also showed an early talent for riflery. He called the family gun Bang All, and soon he became such a crackerjack marksman that he could shoot the shell off an egg. Now, again, there's another exaggeration, right? Along about the time he turned 16, he entered a local shooting match. Each, each entrant had 3 chances to score. Mike hit a bullseye on his first try, but his next 2 attempts left the target unmarked. One lucky hit and 2 wild shots put you out of the running, chuckled the scorekeeper. But Mike got the last laugh when he showed him all 3 bullets lined up behind the bullseye as neatly as peas in a pod. So not only was he such a good shot, but if you look there, you can see that whoosh, they went straight in, one, two, three, all in the exact same hole. Mike's skills with a rifle landed him a job as a scout, but he was still drawn westward by the memory of those great rivers. Finally, Mike found himself face to face with Jack Carpenter, the king of the keelboatmen. Howdy, said Mike. I'm looking for a job. This river crack this river cracks pipsqueaks like peanuts, said Carpenter. Come back when you're 10 feet taller, and then we'll find out if you're strong enough to pull your share of the load. I may be short, said Mike, but I'm strong, and I'd like a chance to prove it. I'm stronger than a buffalo stampede and meaner than a rattlesnake with a bellyache, snarled Carpenter. If you can lick me, the job is yours, and so's this red feather. You got yourself a deal, cried Mike. Cock-a-doodle-doo, let's wrestle. Carpenter charged forward like a bull. Then he hurled Mike hundreds of miles into the heart of the Rocky Mountains. Oh no. There goes Mike, sailing through the air. Well, that set me back a bit, admitted Mike, but I'm determined to be a keelboat man. He decided to get in shape by wrestling with the Grizzlies. At first, those bears rolled him on his back before he could say Jack Carpenter. But Mike kept trying, and little by little his strength increased until he was able to hold his own. Finally, he decided to test himself by challenging Big Bart, the heavyweight champion of the Rockies. When Mike came out on top, he knew he was ready for the keelboat job. He sprinted across the Great Plains and found Jack Carpenter. Cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm back for round two. Let's wrestle, hollered Mike. Again, Carpenter charged like a bull, but this time Mike met him head on. They wrestled up and down the riverbanks for several weeks, kicking up tidal waves and toppling trees. Finally, Carpenter found himself locked helplessly in a Rocky Mountain grizzly bear hug. I'm licked, he gasped. They wrestled for weeks. After the orneriness had been squeezed out of Jack Carpenter, he became downright agreeable. With Carpenter's help, Mike got the hang of navigating quickly, and the crew voted to make him captain. They sang and danced and celebrated all afternoon while the boat drifted lazily down the river toward New Orleans. Heading upriver was a different story. The boat had to be poled and pushed continually to prevent the powerful current from sweeping it backward. The men forged through rapids and up waterfalls, pausing occasionally to tangle with man-eating alligators and enormous snapping turtles that lay in wait for them. Whenever rival keelboats met, there were races on the water and games and sports on land. Men lined up by the dozens to try and win Mike's feather, but no one got the best of him. His hat began to look like a bonfire, and they called him the king of the keelboatmen. Mike loved all the rough and tumble excitement, but he also loved the times when the river was silent and still. He thought that his life as a keelboat man was just about perfect, and he hoped it would never end. But then one morning, Mike saw the dark clouds on the horizon. He was told that these were steamboats and that they were being sent to take over the river trade. Mike hated the shriek and whistles and the clatter of their paddle wheels. He hated the foul-smelling smoke that fogged the river as they churned past him. Faster and larger steamboats kept arriving. They created traffic jams at the major ports that made it impossible for Mike and the other keelboat captains to unload their cargo. A showdown was sparked when a steamboat skippered by Hamilton P. Blathersby shoved Mike's keelboat away from the dock. "This garbage scow is blocking river traffic and should be sunk," hollered Blathersby. "I'm the king of the keelboat men," roared Mike. "I'll fight for this dock. I'll fight for this river." "All hands prepare for naval combat," bellowed Blathersby. With whistles blowing, bells clanging, and smokestacks belching, the powerful steamboat charged forward like a rogue elephant. For a moment, Mike managed to raise the prow of his monstrous opponent, forcing the stern under water. But then its weight overwhelmed him, and Mike and his keelboat were gone. Seconds later, the cold water that had rushed into the steamboat's red-hot boilers set off an enormous explosion. One of the few survivors was Captain Blathersby. He spotted Mike's hat from his lifeboat, and he ordered his men to row closer so that he could collect the feathers. "After all," he said, "now I'm the king of the keelboat men and king of the river." Blathersby was astonished to find Mike underneath his hat. "Cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm back for round two. Let's wrestle," he cried. Some say that Blathersby was thrown all the way to grizzly bear country, but no one knows for sure. As for Mike Fink, he still cheered from one end of the river to the other as the undefeated king of the keelboat men. So I hope you enjoyed that tall tale about Mike Fink, and I'll see you tomorrow with another tall tale, my favorite one tomorrow.